Hi everyone. So this is a live recording for me while I'm trying to build a website as a non-techie. So you can, basically just watch it and see it, and it's a raw data, so there is nothing edited or otherwise. It's just me working on trying to create a website, even though I have never programmed and only have a very basic understanding of HTML and CSS. And what I want to do is that basically what you see here is Canny, and Canny has all these different features and or feature requests, and you can upvote them. And what I want to do is I want to basically build the same thing, but in a very basic way. And the reason is that this is just a project for myself to better understand how it all works and how I can stack together different, let's say CSS and HTML and JavaScript for the front end, but also with the back end, and stack it together to have something that is working, that has a database. And only for myself, as I said, to learn how it works. But I often do things just by myself. And I know that a lot of people are also interested to learn how it works and want to see, okay, how can you get into programming without having to do like a 3-year computer science program or whatever, but how you can basically do this, by your own, just playing around, getting better over time. And so that's me doing different projects one by one to getting more and more into how it works, how I can do this as a non-programmer. And I have a brand that is called No Code AI Lab. And that's basically the idea to bring no code and AI to everyone, and being able, as someone that has not studied computer science or programming or whatsoever, to be able to bring their ideas to life and bring their business to more growth and more automation. And as I'm by myself, very, a beginner myself, I have some understanding. I have worked for tech companies, but mainly in the customer success and the sales piece. So I obviously work with a lot of tech programs and like a lot of tech tools. And I'm also quite interested in learning this by myself and the design and everything. I'm basically total beginner about programming. And so that's what I will be doing in this video. So I already started. So this is my very first video of doing this live and raw. So you have all the M's and the so's, so I won't put them all out. Some of them might be in there, and maybe, like my program where I report the video is the Loom, or like record the video is Loom, so they might take out some of the M's. But mainly it will be just me going through learning, and I make all the mistakes that are there, probably a lot. And as you know, we're talking about AI. I use AI to build it because obviously I have no clue. So I need someone to help me. And that's what I do. So I use ChatGPT to help me build it. And let's just see how it goes. And as I said, I already started. So I already did some of the things, but I just take you with me on the journey from now on. And maybe you learned something in the process and have a better understanding of how it's done. Because I think a lot of people, either you have those people that are very advanced and they go through this like so quickly that you as a beginner really are completely lost. Or otherwise, you have someone that says like, you could do this that way or this way, but they don't go into depth a lot. And you get lost because they just jump over specific things that are very clear. And then others might just scratch the surface. So there is not much that's really going on. And I want to make sure that step by step, like I learn all these things, and it will maybe also help you learn a bit and get a better understanding of how you can build those projects. Let's get started. I just quickly show you what I have done so far so you can grasp and grasp the start. So you see my whole computer here, you see everything. So I hope I don't share any personal details about myself. If I do, then I hope that you just ignore it and don't look into more details about the let's say how you say this, the really personal elements of what I share. And you already see I'm a person that loves to have a lot of tabs open. This is mainly all the things that I'm working on. And you see a lot of free code camp here of how to build ChatGPT. So that's something like a personal ChatGPT. So that's something that I will be doing soon as well. But for now, I just want to get a better understanding of how you can actually build apps, right? And how you can have the front end and the back end of an app. Because beforehand, I had no idea that there is actually a front end and a back end. and there are databases and all these different names and words. So that's what I did. So as I said, we want to build a very simple version of Canny just for myself and hopefully you as well to get a better understanding, okay, how does it actually work and how you can stack it together. So what we did and what I did so far is that I figured out that I need, and I quickly have to check where we are. You see there's so much here. So basically, yeah, we are here. So we can scroll up a bit. A lot, actually. A very lot. You already see a lot of code, which don't ask me what it actually means. So we just go back and let's see. Oh, no, that's wrong. That's something else. So here we go. So I basically said to ChatGPT, create a simple website with movable cards and voting functionality requires a mix of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So I already came to that point that these are the 3 things you need. So HTML is just for the structure of the website. So it basically says, okay, I can see hello world there and I can see some text there and it says what kind of text there is and how this text might be structured. CSS is all around design. So how basically the design looks. So what kind of font you have, what kind of style, what colors you have, how it's aligned on the website, and also bringing in specific where you find the images. Do you have 1 column or 2 columns and so on. So there's way more, but I'm not into this. But I just know it's for the design. And then JavaScript is for the connection. So basically when I click on something, then JavaScript tells me what happens. So it can, for example, say it changes the color when I hover over a button. Or no, that's CSS, I think. I'm not 100% sure, but JavaScript is at least, like it's the interaction that happens between. So for example, if I say, okay, there's a specific button and next to the button, there's a text that says 20. And when I click on the button, then this number moves from 20 to 30. Then this is JavaScript. So it's basically the interactivity that happens on a website. And exactly, and that's basically it. No, that's ChatGPT's answer. No, I got it. I was wondering why I actually wrote this beforehand because I'm not sure if I actually was able to configure what I want. So basically the only thing is, that's what I did. So I just said, I want to build a website with movable cards with topics on it and that people can vote for. And when they do, the card moves up or down accordingly. So you see, it's really basic. And then ChatGPT said, okay, creating a website with movable cards that allow users to vote and interact with the content is a great idea and can be implemented using web development technologies. Here's a high-level overview of the steps you can take to build such a website. Okay, planning and design. Okay, I have some idea in my mind. There's no wireframes at the moment, no mockups because I just skip it. I just want to have the code and iterate at the going because I'm interested in the code and how it works. Choose a development stack. So here it says common choices include HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and a backend framework or database. Okay, getting it? Front-end development. So that's what I said. That's the front end. So that's what the user is seeing. So that's how far we got already. So develop the front end of your website, including the user interface and functionality. For movable cards, you'll likely use HTML and CSS for layout and JavaScript for interactivity. See? Implement a card system that allows users to drag and drop cards or use buttons to move them up or down. Add the voting functionality, allowing users to submit their votes for each card. Okay, we get it. Backend development if necessary. So in the beginning, I thought that's not necessary, but at the same time, I wanted to find out how you can stack it together, right? So I want to have some kind of backend. But don't ask me how it works. So depending on your website's complexity and data storage needs, you might require a backend server to handle user authentication, data storage, and other server-side operations. Choose a suitable backend technologies such as Node.js, Python, Ruby on Rails, or others. See, now that I read it again, I have no clue why I chose Node.js, but for whatever reason, the program told me I should use Node.js, and we come to this in a second. Python, I started trying to program a tiny little bit of Python, but to be honest, I forgot everything already. Ruby on Rails, don't ask me. And I think Django or Flask are something you can use with Python together, but no clue. We are getting there faster or later. Database integration if necessary. If you need to store user-generated content, votes, or other data, integrate a database like MySQL, PostgreSQL, MongoDB, or Firebase real-time database. Okay, so we will be coming to that because I want to have that, because I want to have a database where all knowledge of all these cards that are in the cards are stored. Because that's exactly the reason why, like how I want to stack it together. So that's something that we have to do. And then the user authentication, if you want to use to create accounts, implement user authentication using technologies like don't ask me how to exactly say this, Firebase authentication or custom authentication systems. So for this app, probably we won't do this. We will probably do this in one of the next ones when I create a chatbot. But yeah, let's see how far we get. But I think for now, I really don't want to overcomplicate things. I think it's already complicated enough to say, okay, let's do a full stack web development as someone that has never done that at all. But let's see how far we get. And then testing, okay, thoroughly test your website's functionality. I think that's logical. We do this later. Optimization, okay, we always can do this. Security, yeah, that's probably a good question, but as we don't have authentication and it's just, like really basic, I guess we can also skip this for now, but let's quickly see what it says. Implement security measures to protect user data and prevent vulnerabilities such as SQL injection or cross-site scripting attacks. Okay, probably not. Deployment, choose a web hosting provider and deploy a website to a live server. Common hosting options include shared hosting, a virtual private server, or cloud platforms like AWS, Azure, or Heroku. Okay, I also have no clue yet. I know these cloud platforms, but yeah, I'm not sure yet. Or if we choose virtual private server, I don't know. We will find out. In the end, it's just for now, I only want to have it work. So just to say, okay, it works somehow, even if it's a sandbox. But to be honest, okay, probably if we have a sandbox, then we also want to have it in live production. But we will come there. I don't know yet. So I say I don't know yet a lot of times. So you see, like this is just a project to learn how to bring the product together and just make it work with the code and all these different files and everything. Because that's the main reason here to learn how this works. Domain and SEO, register the domain name for your website and configure DNS settings. Implement SEO best practices to improve your website's visibility in search engines. I'm not sure if this is really a project where we would say, okay, I really need to bring this to market. There are so many different services already that offer that. Maybe we find something else where we can use it. So for example, I was thinking of, if we have these cards and we can upvote, we can basically use this for whatever reason we want to. So if, for example, I say I do one project and I do additional projects as well, you could put in the boxes then, or in these different cards, you could say, okay, what else should I build next? And what else should we try out? And what you want to learn how I do this. So this could be one option, or it could be the option, for example, that we say, okay, I want to have, like all the tools and all the no-code tools on my website. And I want to give you the option that you also be able to upvote the tools and which tools basically mean the most, so that everyone else can profit from that as well. So that's also an option that we can think of how to use those cards. We are really flexible with that. The main reason is I just want to build those cards and find out how it works. So I'm not sure if we do domain and SEO, but we can host this with a subdomain of the website, of course. And then monitoring and maintenance, continuous monitoring your website for performance and security issues, regularly update content, add new features based on user feedback. Yeah, well, we will find out how far we get, and then we can go further into that. Community engagement, encourage user participation, engagement of your website. Yeah, okay, great. This is all like more marketing sales perspective. So that's not really the main key what we want to figure out here. Building a website with movable cards and interactive voting functionality can be a complex project, so it's essential to plan carefully. Okay. It's basically something that I want to do to learn. So it can be complex, but we are trying to make it as simple as possible, just for learning perspectives. And maybe we find a use case and then we can use it with a use case. So what I did is, as I said before, thanks, but I want to get the code for it. If I don't care what kind of languages you use, but I want just a very simple website, nothing fancy. So ChatGPT basically said, okay, creating a simple website with movable cards and voting functionality requires a mix of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Below is a basic example to get you started. This example uses the jQuery library for simplicity, but you can achieve some similar results with plain JavaScript if preferred. So this is all the code. Don't ask me. Or let's see. I know a tiny bit that HTML is like the main code. As I said, the structure of the website. So we have HTML here that is opening. and then in the very bottom, we close it. And then I figured out that you have a head which goes until, interesting. Oh yeah, the head goes until here. And in the head, basically, this is nothing that you see on the website. That's just something that gives some information for the whole website. Don't ask me, don't ask me, don't ask me. There's a title, so I called this whole thing simple movable, or maybe ChatGPT did this. And then this is all the style, so that's the CSS, so basically the style of the website. Then we have a body, which means this is all where the content goes. So the body goes until up, down here. And then the body says, okay, simple movable cards is basically just the title. And then div is something where I think it's kind of a card or kind of a movable element where you can put stuff in, and then you can, like with the CSS, this can basically move up and down on the website. And in this div, so we have here H2 basically means the headline level 2 or like size 2. So size 1 is the biggest size, and then 2 is the one lower. So that's what I know from HTML. Then P is a paragraph. So this is the first card. Div class controls. I think class is something where you can do something with the classes. So you can either, like design the classes. So with the CSS, you can give it specific designs. And then with the script, so basically with JavaScript, you can also, because you have a class, so it controls, you can basically do something with the controls. So you can say, you can basically direct to it. And you can say, okay, if this thing is called controls, then I can take it and do something with it. So I can say, okay, if you click on this div, for example, you do something with a div, then something happens. And that's the same with the button here with the class up and down and vote. So I'm not sure what span exactly means. If this is a text below, don't ask me. So these are the classes, and then if we go down, so these are two how do you say this, card? So that's one card, and then we have another card, and you see that the classes are each the same. So basically this is the class controls, then up, down, votes, and up, down, votes. And then the script is the JavaScript, so that's your JS here in the end. And then for the script, okay, now it's nice because it says function to handle card voting. So it says that's a function. Don't ask me. I have really no clue. So we leave this out, but you see here, for example, direction up or down. So it uses those buttons. And then add event listeners for moving cards up and down. Okay, whatever. We just leave it as it is. So what I basically did, however, in the beginning was that I used all of that text and I opened something called Replit, where you apparently can do the code online. So that's what I did. So I basically went to Replit here. So this is what I created an account, and I then said to this thing, I want to create something. And I said, I want to create something here with HTML, CSS, and JS. And I gave it a name and I just put it private and created this thing. And then you see what happened was that it got like these different 3 things here. So one, the index HTML, then the script JS, and the style CSS. So apparently with the .html is in the HTML file, or like where you put the HTML code. The other one is with JavaScript and the style. But you can, because what ChatGPT gave me is basically everything into one HTML thing. So what I did is I just copy pasted. So this is complete copy paste. I had no clue. And I just wanted to make sure, okay, does it make kind of sense what we created here? And what you can see is, like just simply by putting this in here, what we see is I already played around -1 doesn't really make sense at all. I just realized this. But what you basically see is basically very simple here, simple movable cards. And then you have card 1 and card 2. So the second card is the first card. And I can click move up. And you see this doesn't work because it moves over the headline, which obviously is not the right idea, but it gives you 3 votes. I can move down and it gives me 2 votes. And card 1 the same, move up. Then it's at 0 votes, move down, -2. So there are some things we have to, like figure out, which are not correct. And maybe that's something we have to figure out later on. But it's just, for me to say, okay, in the basics of what we want to achieve, it kind of works out. But obviously there's a lot more that we have to figure out. So what we can lose, so the title I think doesn't really matter because I have to put the title here. So we can say, for example, cards and up voting or like we can say not cards and up, or simple move with cards. We don't want to do this. We want to say, right, like, please, or how do you say this? Not feature request. I mean, feature request is the most obvious, but we say, project requests. So to say, like project requests. And then we can click here on run. And what happens now, hopefully, oh yeah, it works. See, project requests. So basically just by simply changing this project request, we have something else. And now we could say, okay, card 1 is not card 1, but card 1 is, for example, we say build ChatGPT bot, and could say, okay, what we want to do here, this is the first card. And we say build a ChatGPT bot, and we say share with us how to create a ChatGPT bot with no code, so without code, or we could say without code, obviously. And then we can do the card 2, so we can say, okay, instead of card 2, this is build a website without code. And then we can say, okay, build a marketplace website, for example. Build a marketplace website. And yeah, we can obviously move up, move down. We don't change anything here with the script because I have no clue anyways. Then we can do, like we change a bit of the style. So we could say, okay, the body font family is now, okay, I have no clue. But let's do a background. So let's not do this background color, what we have here, but let's go with black. I think this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. How is it? 1, 2, 3? Do we have 6? So I think this is background color black, if I'm not wrong, because F, or like all these F's are like white. So let's just see what happens. So we do run. Ha, see? The problem is we don't see. The problem is we don't see the title anymore here with the color because we made it all black. So maybe we don't do it black. Let's just, like I have no clue. Let's do A, E4, E5, E3. I have no clue what color comes out. We could check, but okay. See that this is better. It's really pinky, but now we have a pinky background and the project requests, and we have here those cards. Now we have only 2 cards. Maybe we want to have more cards. I already set this to the program, but we can do this later. And then we could also say, okay, the width, like the width of the card is not really great. So maybe we only want to have 2 cards, right? Like all the cards below each other. So we could say, I think width is 100%. Let's see, or like 90%. Let's see if that works. See, but for whatever reason, it stopped being pink, which is really weird. Change this again. Maybe it just doesn't want to do it anymore. Interesting. So you have no clue why it just changed, because it should be pink. But for whatever reason, we don't know. So this is how I did this in Weblet. And then my question, however, was to the program. So we went back to the ChatGPT. And then my question was, okay, where do I input the code to make that work? And so it gave me some ideas. And I asked, would Replit also work to write code? And so I meant Replit, but I wrote repair. So we went all down, and I meant Replit. And I meant Replit because I watched a video about from Free Code Camp, where they basically teach you free development as well, and for free, so you can do all these courses, but they're like really long, right? And I want to start getting active here and doing this like work by doing basically, and learn by doing. So it felt, okay, I have to go through all these things before I can actually do something and see results. So that's something that didn't work for me for learning. And for that reason, I decided to do it myself. But they taught what they learned, or like what they shared was in Replit. And Replit is, as I said, and they say here as well, is an online integrated development environment. So basically where online you can create all these things. So online basically you have these different files here, and then you can put it together. And I kind of find this quite charming that you can put it in here and you directly see the result, even though I have to say it doesn't want to get pink anymore in the background. So I don't really know why. But in general, it kind of felt it works. I kind of heard this before of how you can bring those things together. So basically for the index HTML, you somewhere can put in, like, okay, the style, we relate with the style to the style sheet, and then all the style can go into the style sheet and all the JavaScript can go into the JavaScript, and we just write something here that says, okay, please refer for the JavaScript to the JavaScript style file. I forgot how it works. We have to check it out. But for now, it didn't become that important. So that's the reason why I used Replit. And then let's go back to the chat. Yeah, so I opened 2 chats. So it now answers this to me. It says Replit is an online integrated development environment that allows you to write, run, and collaborate on code directly within your web browser. It supports a wide range of programming languages and is suitable for coding and testing various types of projects, including web development, Python scripting, and more. You can certainly use Replit to write and run code, including HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and other languages. It provides coding environment with features like syntax highlighting, version control, and the ability to share and collaborate in projects with others. Here's how to use Replit. And then it explains me, right, like open the website, sign up to an account, click the new REPL, choose the programming language, start writing, use the run button, and you can also collaborate, which I obviously didn't do. And then it gives me some ideas. And then I asked, okay, when do people normally use Replit and when do they use Visual Studio Code? So Visual Studio Code is something that I've heard about. I actually had this at my computer at one point in time, never used it though, because there was a time where I also wanted to start building projects and building those tools, but I never did. So I heard about this already, and you see it here now. I have it now installed, and we come to this in a second, or like a bit later. So yeah, what happened is that I asked, okay, what are the pros and cons? And it told me, okay, people use Replit and Visual Studio Code for different purposes and under various circumstances. Each has its own advantages and disadvantages. We don't go into detail, but it basically sees Replit as online convenience, no installation required, beginner-friendly, and it is good for collaboration. And Visual Studio Code is future-rich code editor, advanced coding tasks, local development, customization, and integrations. So I decided for this, what I just showed you, the JavaScript, the HTML, and the CSS works perfectly. Let's just do this in this Replit piece. However, so then I said the code for the cards works great, but the problem is that when I click move up, the upper card moves over the title of the page. Can you correct that and write a code that allows to have infinitely many cards that can be upvoted, as well as the option for the user to input data into the cards and also update the card's content? So you see, it became way more complicated. The reason is that I thought, okay, great. We go back to the Replit. I can move up, I can move down, but nothing happens. I don't have this saved somewhere or stored somewhere. So I would say, every time someone checks this out again, it just starts somewhere, but I have no clue where it goes to. Is there anywhere where I can say, okay, now I know, that this is happening, and what happens if someone want to change it or want to create something? Where do I create this, and where do I share it then and store it? So I have no clue. I mean, I kind of know that there are databases, right? But how this is connected, how this works, no clue. So that's the reason why I decided let's make it a bit more complicated and basically talk about it. So this is what I did. And then ChatGPT said, okay, to address the issue of cards moving over the title of the page when you click move up, and to enable the functionality of having different many cards that can be upvoted, input into the cards, and update the cards content, you can modify the code as follows. Okay, we have HTML, we have a head, we have this huge style again, then we have the body, really short actually. And it says, okay, let's see, card voting. It says div class container. So that's probably the button ID add cards container. Okay, whatever. And then we have a script, add card, so function to add a new card, create card content element, create upvote and devote buttons, create input fields for updating content, append elements to card, append card to container, event listener, okay, function to handle card voting, function to create vote span, event listener for... Okay, you see this got a bit complicated. So this updated code allows you to add an unlimited number of cards, each card, and so on. So I haven't tried this yet. Let's try this. I really didn't. So we will basically delete all of that. You can always come back to it. So now let's see what happens, if it actually works at all. Ha, see? Card voting. So now we have card voting. We have a card title, card content, upvote, downvote. So we can say add card. Interesting. Now let's say update card content. So we say this is, see, this is interesting. But we don't have, I also need to update the card title, right? Because that's not enough if I only have card title. So, yeah, so we probably have to ask to do this a bit differently later on, because this is not correct what we want to have. But still, you know, like we learned a lot. So update card content. So we could say, I want you to create a ChatGPT bot. Can we do enter? No, so it basically stays there, right? So basically, if I now say instead of ChatGPT bot, if I say website, so yeah, that's not possible, right? Because that's, see, now we run into way more problems, because the moment you put this here, it basically means that we need something completely different, because we don't want to have it that way. We want to have it in a way that we can check this. Upvote. Okay, this works nice. Downvote. Okay, it can also go to minus. I'm not sure if we want to have this, but maybe that's also an option, that we have a wider spread of positive and negative. Yeah, so basically it shouldn't be that you can upload the card. So once a card is fixed, we should not be able to upload it anymore. So this is a feature we have to take into account, right? So we see the more we go into detail, the more we learn, okay, what works and what doesn't work and what we want to change. And I think that's exactly what makes it more complicated, right? To make sure, okay, if we have this program here, we don't run into each like huge problems. So we could do this, and I think it's really nice because it creates, you know, like it creates the upvote and the downvote button. So it creates all these input fields, and then it appends the elements to the card. So I think this is actually what happens. Let me see if we can function add card, function to add a new card. So you see, this is like a huge function, apparently. I think it goes until here. And it basically says, okay, we function is to add a card. So it's a constant cards container. And then create this element and then list it here to this whatever card list. And then create card content elements. So it creates this h2 the card title. So document create element, text content card title, then create element card content. So that's what it creates, right? And create element div. Yeah, so everything, I guess. And then it creates the upvote and the downvote button. So at upvote button, document create element, text content upvote, and then the same with downvote. And then it creates the input field for updating content. So that's basically this piece here. And then it append the elements to the card. So it bring it all then basically together. And then it append card to container. So that's probably like, yeah. Event listener for upvote and downvote. I'm not sure, but I think it just shows that, you know, like it shows what happens here and what kind of numbers there are. Function to handle card voting. So this is then, yeah, so basically there you can up and down vote. And then function to create votes span. It's probably this piece here. Then we see what happens. And it starts with 0 votes and then it goes up or down. Event listener for content input. Okay, whatever. I don't know. Yeah, so we have to figure it out. But I think, you know, what we see here is that we need to make some changes. And once you can put something into the card, you can't change it anymore. At least you can't change the title and the description. And yeah, so we have to add this. But let's go and move to a further piece. So now we have all the text. We checked it out. It works okay-ish, but not great. So it told me what I have to do. And then I said, okay, great. I want to be able to store the cards data into a data bank and then retrieve and update the information based on what the user types into the cards. Can you generate the right code for me and tell me how I can achieve that? And now it gets interesting because now we are moving into not only front-end development, now we're moving into back-end development. And that's exactly where we got completely lost, or at least I got lost. So, and here I am at the moment. So we are far away from any kind of website working properly. But at the same time, it helps to better understand where we're going to. So ChatGPT to store and retrieve card data into a database and update information based on user input, you'll need to use a server-side backend along with the database system. Okay, we get it somehow. For this purpose, I'll provide you with a simplified example using Node.js as a server, Express.js as the web framework, and SQLite as the database system. Okay, there you completely lost me. This example will demonstrate how to save and retrieve card data and update it based on user input. Here's a step-by-step guide on how to achieve this. And now it got really interesting because, as I said, I have no clue. So first it says set up your environment, and we just jump through this because we go into each single step like in very much detail for someone that never did that. And I'm still really lost, and you will see, like the moment we get further that I'm not close to anything. So set up your environment. So make sure you have Node.js installed on your computer. If not, download and install it from the official website. So what I did is I went to the website nodejs.org and I clicked here. It says recommended for most users latest features. I thought like, okay, I want to have latest features just out of, curiosity and saying, okay, I'm always want to have the best one, like the newest one. Why should I not have the newest one? Like, what's the point? Not sure if that's a great idea, but that's the reason why I then chose here the current one. I downloaded the whole thing, and that's basically all I did. I think we can close this now because nothing really relevant anymore. And then it says create a new project directory. We come to this in a second because that already caused problems. Then it says initialize a Node.js project. So run the following command. I have no clue where to put the command, what this means. I haven't done this yet, so we have to go there. Then it says install required packages. So install the necessary Node.js packages. We haven't been there yet. Create a server file, write the server code. So that's apparently code. Then run the server, node server.js. Interesting. I think I just overjumped a lot of those things here. Well, then run the server, test the API endpoints. I know APIs connect different programs or connect database with, connect whatever. So these are connectors, but that's all we get so far. Update your front end, modify your front end code to send HTTP requests to your server's APIs and to retrieve, add, and update card data. Okay, far away from this piece. This example provides a basic setup for storing and retrieving card data using an SQLite database. You can expand upon it by adding more features and so on. Okay, we are far away from that. So I said I have set up Node, but where do I create this new project directory and how does it work? Please explain that in a way a beginner programmer understands. You could actually not only say beginner programmer, but you could also say like a total beginner. So I basically went back and say, okay, I want to set up my environment. Make sure you have Node.js down installed. So create a new project directory. I had no clue what they mean with that. So we went down and then it says, okay, choose a location. First decide where you want to create your project directory. You can choose any location on your computer where you'd like to store your project files. And then it went down further. We skipped the rest now because we are not there yet. And I said, okay, I have Anaconda on my computer. Anaconda is basically also, and that's because I tried to program Python and get like into AI programming and trying to get some projects there. But I realized that I'm always falling back to finding out how web development works and basically putting together apps, because in the end, I want to have and create apps and APIs to connect those apps. And then AI comes into the play by itself. But I kind of don't want to just do the AI because I somehow need to be able, okay, how can I bring this thing that I, like program in some future then to something that actually someone can interact with. And that's the reason why I decided, okay, I need to have a basic understanding of web development and how it all stacks together so that then I can build up those projects with a more AI focused. And that's the reason why now I decided, okay, I don't want to do this. I first focus on the web development so we get this done and then we can focus on everything else. So for that reason, sorry for this voice. So for that reason, I downloaded Anaconda, which apparently is something not similar, but you can, with Anaconda, you have something that's called Jupyter Notebooks. And Jupyter Notebooks, I think, is something similar than this like EDE, like these environments, integrated development environments. I forgot exactly the name, but like the Visual Studio Code or the Weblet. But then you can basically manage all of those different packages and things that you can download. And then you have Jupyter Notebooks, and that's similar to kind of those EDs, if I'm not completely wrong, like the Visual Studio Code, where you can only program, however, Python. And so I wrote this. I have Anaconda on my computer. Does it make sense to use the Anaconda PowerShell terminal? So that's something that comes up when I type in Anaconda here. Then it says Anaconda prompt. And I wanted to ask, okay, is this Anaconda prompt similar to, like what I want to use here? So I said, I have Anaconda on my computer. Does it make sense to use the Anaconda PowerShell terminal or Anaconda prompt? Or better to use Visual Studio Code for website project HTML, CSS, JavaScript with Node.js, an API, and a data bank in the backend. And then it says, okay, when working on a website project that involves and so on, you can choose to use either the Anaconda PowerShell terminal or Visual Studio Code, depending on your preferences. And then it says Anaconda PowerShell. It's Anaconda for Python, data science, and machine learning. It's a project isolation, so it's mainly Python. However, for a web development project involving Node.js, you would typically manage Node.js dependencies separately using NPM, whatever Node Package Manager. Limited web development features. Anaconda doesn't offer web development specific features or tools like VS Code, so Visual Studio Code does. While you can write code and run basic web development tasks in Anaconda, you may find it less tailored to web development needs. And then Visual Studio Code, integrated development environment, is a highly popular and versatile code editor that provides a rich set of features and extensions for web development, including HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Node.js, and database integrations. There are a lot of extensions, integrated terminal, debugging tools, version control. So overall, it says, okay, use Visual Studio Code, and that's the reason why I did. So I basically went to the website here, code.visual, or like Visual Studio Code. I put this in Google, and I clicked on download. It says something that you can do like, oh, I clicked it again. It wasn't my, yeah. And then it says here, extensions, first steps, whatsoever. I just skipped that. So we can close that. Then let's go back to, no, this is something else. Let's go here. Yeah, you see, now I download it again. So I have now said, okay, I have now Node.js installed, Visual Studio Code and Anaconda, as I first only, okay, and so on, nothing necessary to put for ChatGPT, but whatever. Now when you mean open a terminal or command prompt on your computer, what shall I best use for the project at hand in this chat, and how does it work step by step? Now it says, okay, to get started with your web development project using Node.js, Visual Studio Code, and Anaconda, you want to use the built-in terminal within Visual Studio Code. Here's a step-by-step guide on how to use it. Open Visual Studio Code. Now we have it open. So that's this open. You see, works perfectly. Then open your project folder. We come to this, I had no clue. Open the integral terminal, select the terminal to navigate your project directory. Run the code and so on. So I said, thanks for step 2. I do not yet have a project folder. What do you mean with this? A normal folder on my computer or something else? And then it basically tells me, yes, it's a completely normal project folder. Choose a location, create a new folder, name your project folder, open the project folder in Visual Studio Code. And exactly. And then I said, is there any best practice where the project folder shall be located on my computer, or is that arbitrary? And the reason why I asked this is that I heard beforehand that sometimes you have to put apparently folders in like similar folders or path. There's something with path. Yeah, I think then where Python is installed or something. So whatever reason, I think it has nothing to do with it, but still there was something that was in my mind and popping up. So that was the reason why I asked that question. And the answer, I don't go into detail, but it basically says, okay, you can do whatever you want to, but there are specific things like accessible location or version control where you want to have specific things. So I didn't go into detail. But however, it says some development environments such as Visual Studio Code allow you to create workspace files that save the configuration and file structure for a specific project. So because they did, I then asked, okay, thanks. If you say that some development environments such as Visual Studio Code allow to create workspace files that save the configuration and file structure of a specific project, what do you mean? is that related to how and where I create that project folder on my computer, or is it more about that the ID helps me project and show the same structure on the IDE? And then basically it just says, okay, when I mentioned that some development environments like Visual Studio Code allow you to create workspace files that save the configuration and file structure of a specific project, I was referring to a feature within the IDE itself. It's not directly related to where you create your project folder on your computer. Here's what this feature means. Okay, workspace file. So basically I skipped that because it just sounded too complex. Okay, and then it says, okay, for the step 4 that you mentioned about selecting the terminal shell in Visual Studio Code, is there any specific one I should choose, or is that arbitrary, or what they mean? So basically what I did is I went back, up, and I don't know where I went. I think I went all up here. Yeah, set up your environment, create a new project directory. No, even more up. 2? No, we have to go down again, sorry. No, I created a new project directory. Let me see, I think we were there. Yeah, creating a new project directory, choosing a location, and then open a terminal. And that's what I did. So I opened a terminal or command prompt on your computer, and Windows, Mac, and so on. And I don't really know what I did then, but I know that I went, maybe I went here, I opened Visual Studio, I opened your project folder. Yeah, exactly, that's what I did. So I basically went here, I said, open the project folder. It says, like, to open the terminal, go to the view menu and then select terminal. So that's the first thing. So yeah, exactly. So I said, open your project folder. I said, okay, file, open folder. So I went here, said file, open folder. So that's the folder that I created, cards, website, project. It's just in my normal project files. And then it says, okay, select the terminal shell. And then I was lost because basically terminal shell, okay, I figured out there's PowerShell, but if I click on this one, oh no, that's not what I wanted. We wanted to stay here. So if I click on this one, it says PowerShell, command prompt, JavaScript debug terminal, split terminal, or whatever. And I was basically like, okay, can we delete this? Yeah, we can delete this. And I was like, okay, what the hell? Like which one? Sorry for this expression, but what exactly do you mean with that? So I had no clue. And so select terminal shell. And so I asked here, okay, for the step 4 that you mentioned about select the terminal shell in Visual Studio Code, is there any specific one I should choose, or is that arbitrary, or what do they mean? So I wanted to know, and just, for personal understanding of what this means. And it basically says, okay, my command prompt is like a default shell on Windows. PowerShell has more like, it's more versatile. Bash is whatever Linux. I don't have a Linux, I have Windows, so that we skip that. Probably, yeah, well. Git bash is if you use Git command lines and Git repositories. I don't know. Other shells, I don't know. So basically, I decided to go with PowerShell because it sounded like default plus some more powerful and versatile. So it sounded like a nice thing to do. So I just chose PowerShell. And then I said, okay, thanks. Can you explain more detail the task and use case of the terminal shell and why I need it? So what does it do more specifically? So the reason was just that I knew that these command shells existed, but I never really understood, okay, what is a command shell and what is this IDE, like this Visual Studio Code? So what are the differences there? And so that's what I wanted to find out. Apparently very simple answer, but I just didn't know. So so it basically says, okay, it runs commands, it helps you with your files on your computer. So basically it allows you to interact with your computer, run commands, execute scripts, and perform various tasks without relying on a graphical user interface. And so it explains all these things in summary. And then I said, okay, great, thanks, GUI, when it basically just means that for the user not familiar in advance in the terminal, have the user interface and design what they can do and run these tasks without needing to write code, but simply visually. And that's exactly what ChatGPT then confirmed. It says, yes, that's a good way to describe it. GUI, which stands for Graphical User Interface, provides a visual way for users to interact with software and perform tasks without needing to write code or use a command line interface. So obviously something we try to with the No Code AI Lab to achieve as well. But as I think, I'm using AI to be able to create programs without even needing to write code in a way that I have to do it and not do it myself, but know it myself. That's the key thing here that we figure out with the AI piece. I obviously will, like in further videos, also go into no-code tools, which are completely then apparently GUI with the graphical user interface, where you don't have to write code and you don't even see those code environments. But to better understand, okay, how does it actually plug and play? I think this is, we basically go into this AI coding and AI, coding coaching here in that example. So no coding required. Okay, we get this. What you see is what you get. Operating system. Okay, whatever. Okay, then I said, okay, my project is here on my computer. How can I put this into the terminal for step 5 above? Would it be cd users and so else? And then it says, okay, in the Windows command prompt or PowerFile, you should use backlashes. So if you put this on your computer, so here we can see that if I click on it, it's like these slashes here, the backlashes, and we need those backlashes. So that's basically copy code. Make sure to use backlashes. Alternatively, you can also enclose the path. Okay, I didn't do this. Okay, then I just asked this again. Okay, thanks. So when I opened the PowerShell, it already shows PS and so on. So this is what you see here. We have it basically, this one was already there. And then I put the Node.js. So here you see it again. So it says this. And so I thought, okay, I don't really need to put something in there because it's already in there. And I opened this, like this folder here, obviously, Cards website project. So apparently it is already in there. And so then when we go back, and it kind of confirms that it says, okay, you don't need to type the CD to navigate to the project file because you're already there. You can proceed with step 6 and run your Node.js commands, such as node server.js. And so that's what I did. I run that and I just put in node server.js, but then it basically told me cannot find module for server.js. And it's true. I mean, in this folder, there is nothing with Node.js, right? Like server.js, I didn't create this folder yet. It's just, it isn't there. So I was like, yeah, sure, it isn't there. So, and that's what I asked. So I said, when I do this, it says I cannot, and I have to make a quick stop here for the video. 1 second, I'm back. Bear with me for 1 second. Okay, fine, we can go on. So that's what I said. If you receive an error stating that it cannot find the server.js file in your project folder, it likely means that the server.js file is not present. Yeah, that's true. So now we're going in detail, and that's something I haven't done yet. So we are now at this point where you will basically do these things with me. And bear with me, it will take some time. So as I said, it's a raw file, and it's a raw basically sharing with you how I do this. So you can go along while I do it and hopefully learn something by yourself as well, but it will be not as fast anymore as it had been now in the last couple of minutes, because as I said, now I have to do it myself and now I have to figure it out. And so I will make some mistakes, and we will probably do some roundabouts. And it's probably, if you're a bit more into programming than I have been so far, then probably some of the stuff that I just shared with you is really just, are you kidding me? That's like so slow. You could do it like way faster. But as I said, I'm not into programming. I'm just starting. I'm just learning with the help of AI and bring all those things to life for you and all these projects and learning while sharing it with you. So that's the reason why it will be sometimes maybe a bit long. It will sometimes feel like we do some circles, but that's the the life of learning, I guess. And when I'm done and I have done those projects, then I might share at some point also how I do it in a more structured way. But for now, it's really raw data of just sharing with you what I learn and how it works. And hopefully, as I said, you can get something out of that. And you get a bit of like the maybe understanding, okay, how I can use AI also for my own projects and how I can use AI for those things that I value as well and that I want to bring to life as well. And we explore while I do this, how you can do this as well. So now we have, okay, you receive an error, and here are the basic steps to create a server Node.js file for Node.js server. So open Visual Studio Code. Okay, we have it open already. Open your project folder. Use Visual Studio Code's file open folder. That's something we already did. Option to open your project folder. So file, open folder. So this is, that's the file we already did. So that's the cards website folder. And then it says create a new file. So in Visual Studio Code, right click on your project folder in the Explorer pane on the left-hand side and choose new file and name the file server.js. So we put, no, this doesn't show anything, but we have, I think, this one here. This looks really new file. So we use this and call this server. Was it server.js? We just need to check, sorry. Server.js. So now we have server.js. Now we have this here. Okay, interesting. Now we close this. Let's go back here. Okay, now we have, and then edit the server.js file. So double click on the server.js file to open it in the code editor. You can now write the code for your Node.js server in this file. Here's a simple example of a Node.js server code you can use to get started. I have no clue what this means. And I'm not sure if we need that, but let's say save the file. Now, after writing your server code, save the server.js file in Visual Studio Code, return to the PowerShell. Okay, we just try this. This is probably just not related to this folder that we have because it just says here res and hello world, servers running in port, whatever. So console log, I think, is just showing something, but without showing it the user, but just in a log. So basically it says, okay, you did that, but the user in the end won't see this. So we just copy the code. We put this in here. Okay, we just leave it as it is. So just see what happens. So close this or like minimize. So save the file. Where do we save it? You see? So let's see, file. We just put save here. Let's just put save. I hope this is working. And then we close this again. And then return to the PowerShell terminal, go back to the PowerShell terminal window where you are in your project. You should now have the server.js file in the directory. Run your Node.js server. You can now run your, okay, we just try this. This command will start your Node.js server and it should display a message in the terminal indicating that the server is running on a specific port. Once you've created and saved your project directory and run the Node.js server, you should be able to access your server by opening. Okay, now we have 3000. Okay, let's see if what this does. So now with the terminal, what did it say? Node server.js. Okay, see, server's running on port 3000. Wow! No clue what it means, no clue what we just did. But let's just go on and put this thingy here. We have the right by opening a web browser. So we open a web browser. Let's see what happens. Hello world. Ha, isn't that nice? Interesting. See, no clue, but we made this work. So this is what we wanted to have. So now we have to go back and now we know, right? Now we have all these. That's interesting, right? Because now Node.js. So this is to get started with your web development project using Node.js, Visual Studio Code, and here's a step-by-step on how to use it. So now we're going back here and then later on we have to go back to our project. But let's quickly go back to our project. Okay, this is something, let's see. So this is the normal project where we have create a new project and initialize a Node.js project. Run the following command to initialize a Node.js project and create a package.json file. Yeah, interesting. So let's say, okay, I have now a Node.js project. So we say, you asked me to what did it ask me to? It asked me to do this and then this. So when we go there, you ask me to do, that's not what we wanted, sorry. We wanted to do V. So we need to copy this as well, right? Like copy code. But I already have a server.js file created for the node. And so is that code that I shall put into the terminal still correct, or shall we use something else to create the JSON file? So what kind of code shall I use and where? Okay. So now it's loading. Let's see what happens. Oh, we are so down here already. Oh, let's generate again. Interesting. No clue what happened. Okay, now we say you asked me to create a JSON file above with the Node.js project. So basically you said the following. So I have to go up again. I think here we go, right? npm init y. Still the correct code, given that I already created now, how did we call it? Created now a server.js file with, do we say node code? I don't know. So let's see. Let's see if now it finds an answer. Yeah, here we have an answer. So if you already created the server.js file with your node code, you want to initialize your Node.js project with a package.json file, you can still run the command. This command will create a basic package.json file based on the default values. Here's how to do it. Open the terminal in your project directory where the server.js file is located. Run the following command. This command will generate a package.json file with default values and save it in your project folder. You can review, okay, and so on. Here, creating a package file is not mandatory, but it's good practice, especially if you plan to manage dependencies or share your project with others. It helps document the project's configuration. Okay, not sure, but let's try it out. Interesting. So now we are in Node, but we want to go back into PowerShell. So now we are in this project, so let's see what happens. Okay, see, that's interesting. So now we have a package.json. Now it says name cards website project version 1.0.0. Okay, description, there is no description. Main server.js, scripts, test, echo, no test specified, start, no keywords. Okay, interesting. So now we have a JSON. Let's go back. So this is what we finished now. So now we have to go back. some point probably we just have to rewrite it because we go up like so much here. So now we have this. So create a new initialize a Node.js project package JSON. Okay, that's what we did. Install required packages. Install the necessary Node.js packages as Express.js and SQLite. So copy code. Maybe we just quickly ask if I want to install required packages for the Node.js project, do I input the code into terminal at Visual Studio Code or somewhere else? And then we put npm install express SQLite 3. So let's go down again. We maybe copy the code here so, if it says this, then we don't have to go up and down again. Okay, interesting. So maybe that's a good point that we put this in so we learn a bit more. So now we have open Visual Studio Code and it says launch Visual Studio Code if it's not already open. Open your project folder. We did this. This should be the same folder where your server and package JSON files are located. We have this. Then open the terminal inside Visual Studio Code. You can open the integrated terminal by selecting View Terminal. So we are in the terminal. Navigate your project directory. We did this already. So if we go here, terminal, and then we have it here. So this works fine. Navigate to here. Okay, we are there. Replace path with the actual. Okay, install packages. To install packages for your Node.js project, you can use the npm install command followed by the package name you want to install. For example, this command will install the Express and they will be added as dependencies to your package JSON file. So we copy the code, we put this in there, and we see what happens. I'm never really sure if this does it by itself or I have to click enter again because I think with the enter, it then does something. Okay, now apparently it wants, so we just can read further here. So wait for the installation. This terminal will display the process of the package installation. Once it's completed, the package will be installed in a Node modules directory within your project folder. Okay, now let's go back. Node modules. So here we have the Node modules. Okay, we get it. That's great. You can now use the installed packages in your Node.js project. The packages you install via npm will be available for use in your JavaScript code, allowing you to incorporate their functionality into your application. Remember to include these packages in your JavaScript code by requiring them. For example, this allows you to use the features. Okay, I think we did this before with a weblet, but let's just... So if we go back to the weblet just for an example, and we have the JavaScript here, you see we have the script here, and then it says function, and then it says these constant things. So yeah, let's ask, because I'm not 100% sure how to do that, or basically not at all. So we say, thanks, that worked for the last part of your answer. To include these packages into your JavaScript code. I have not yet created a JavaScript file for the project, and I don't know how to include these packages into my JavaScript code. Can you please help me to create a JavaScript file and include the JavaScript code from above in there? So I think I have an understanding of how it works, but just make sure that we're really going into the right direction here. Okay, create a JavaScript file, open Visual Studio Code. We already did this. Oh, interesting. Okay, interesting. Name the file something like app.js or main.js. This will be your JavaScript file. Now I already have a question because we have a server JavaScript file, right? And this is very similar to the one that we see here. Basically, it's exactly the same. So the question is, do we need 2 JavaScript files or do we only need 1 JavaScript file? So name the file something like app.js or main.js, edit the JavaScript file, double click on the newly created JavaScript file to open it in the code editor. So select new file. That's copy and paste your JavaScript code into this file. For example, if your code is, save the JavaScript file. After pasting the code, save the JavaScript file by clicking File Save by using the. If you want to execute this in your Node.js project, you need to include it in your server.js file. Open your server.js file in Visual Studio Code, add the following line at the top to acquire and execute your app.js or main.js file. Now when you run your Node.js server using Node server.js in the terminal, it will execute both the code in your server.js file and the code in your app.js or main.js file. This allows you to organize and modularize your Node.js application into separate JavaScript files for better code organization. Okay, I have no clue why I need 2 of them. I don't know what Node.js exactly is doing now at the moment. I just know it somehow connects front end and back end. Probably not. We have to ask. But let's do that. So let's create a new file and let's call this main.js. So into main.js, if I understand this correctly, we put these 2 here. So I think we have to put this in here. So do I understand this correctly, that I need to put the const express require express. Let's check if that's correct what I just put there. Require express, no, that's wrong. That comes in here. And the same for SQL into the main.js file, and then the require whatever dot main.js into the server.js file. So let's see what it says. Apparently that's not correct. Not exactly. The constant express, require express, and similar lines are typically placed in the same JavaScript file where you intend to use the respective packages, not in a separate main.js file. So server.js. In your server.js file, you should include the code that sets up and runs your Node.js server. This file is responsible for starting your server and handling HTTPS requests. If you're using packages like Express and SQLite in your server, you should require them in the server.js file where you plan to use them. Example, server.js file. Okay, so here we have the constants, and then we have this one. And then separate JavaScript modules. If you have specific functionalities or routes that you want to separate into different JavaScript files, modules, you can create those separate files and require them within server.js where needed. For example, you might have a routes.js file that defines your web routes using Express and a database.js file that sets up your SQLite database. You would then require these modules in server.js. Example, routes.js file. Okay. I have no clue. But what we will just do is we just copy that code and put this in because it's basically exactly the same that we just used. And then we go on afterwards. So server.js. Oh, see, constant HTTP requires, so maybe we don't even need to use this all. Yeah, I know that's double. We don't. So this is already the same in this one. So now we can just move this up and then we say file save. Okay, so now we have now we have these three constants there, and despite this we don't do that much. We can just run this thing again, node server.js, and see what happens. Okay, whatever. I think it just works. I just decided it works now. Okay, we need more explanation here because I'm lost. So if I have specific functionality or routes that you want to separate into different JavaScript files, you can create those separate files and acquire them within server.js where needed. For example, you might have a routes.js file that defines your web routes using Express. Yeah, see, the problem is I have no clue what Express, and sorry, that's something this is not related to here. Okay, I say, okay, thanks, but I do not really get it. Can you explain in simple language what is Node.js and what does Node actually do, and what Express and SQL and what the packages Express and, let's go up, SQLite 3 do, and I also need a more explanation of what constant roots are. Okay, so this is for me, as I said, I mean, I'm just, if you're just coming in, I'm learning to code with no code, so basically with the help of AI, and try to build an app that looks very similar to Canny. So Canny is a tool where you can upvote, so you can basically add specific feature requests and then you can upload or downvote them. And what I'm currently trying to do is to build exactly that little feature and functionality into a little tiny bit of an app to make sure that I better understand, okay, how does the app development work? So how does front and back end works and how you can stack it together. And for that reason, we are currently going through all the code. So that's basically some videos I'm doing. So we are going through all the code and I'm learning, and I share the learning with you so you can learn along with me. So for ChatGPT, so basically what I said is, okay, can you explain in simple languages what Node.js means and what does it actually do, and what the packages Express and SQLite 3 do, and also need more explanation of what constant roots are. So basically that's me trying to understand and put this mental map into my mind so I can better understand it. So certainly let's break it down into simple terms. Node.js is a one-time environment that allows you to use JavaScript on the server side. So see, I'm already lost. In simpler words, it lets you use JavaScript to build applications that can do things like serving web pages, handling database operations, and more, not just in web browsers, but also on servers. See, the problem is I don't even know exactly the same what web browsers and what servers are. I mean, I know what a web browser is, and I know that the server, I think, is where, you have the data stored. But then the question was about handling database operations. So yeah, we're getting a bit lost here, but we're getting there. Node.js does. So server-side logic, Node.js can handle tasks on the server like receiving and responding to requests from web browsers. Event-driven, it uses an event-driven non-blocking I/O model, which means it can handle many simultaneous connections efficiently. Extensible, you can extend its functionality by using packages. Express is a package or library for Node.js that makes it easier to build web applications and APIs. It simplifies tasks like routing, determining which code to run for which URL, handling requests and responses, and more. Think of it as a toolbox that helps you build web servers quickly. SQLite 3 is a package for Node.js that allows you to interact with SQLite databases using JavaScript. SQLite is a lightweight file-based database system that's easy to work with, making it great for small to medium-sized applications. It allows you to store, retrieve, and manipulate data. Constant roots. In this example I provided earlier, constant roots is simply a variable that stores the functionality for handling web routes, the URL that users visit in your application. It is often used to define how your application responds to different URLs. Here's a bit more detail on constant roots. In Node.js and Express, you create a set of routes to define how your web application responds to various URLs, e.g. what to show when a user visits the homepage, what to do when they submit a form, etc. Constant roots is assigned an instance of an Express router, which is a way to define these routes and their associated functionality in a separate module. It helps organize your code and keeps it clean. Inside the routes module, you define how your application should respond to different routes. For example, if a user visits the home page, you might respond with "Hello World," as in the early example. This separation of concerns helps you manage and expand your application more easily. In summary, Node.js lets you use JavaScript on the server. Express is a package that makes it easier to build web applications with Node.js. SQLite 3 is a package for working with databases. Constant roots is a variable that stores the code for handling different routes in your web application. These tools work together to enable you to create web applications and APIs using JavaScript on the server side. Okay, now we need to ask, at least I need to ask, can you explain what you mean with server side? Please bear in mind that I am a programmer beginner. Probably a very easy question. Probably a lot of you know what we are talking about here, but not me. So we need to ask. So certainly, I'll explain server-side in simple terms. Server-side. When we talk about server-side, we are referring to a part of a computer application that runs on a server, which is a powerful computer that stores and manages data and responds to requests from other computers like your web browser. Here's a breakdown. Client-side. This is the part of an application that runs in your web browser, like Chrome, Firefox, or Edge. When you visit a website, your browser downloads and runs code, usually written in JavaScript, to display web pages, interact with forms, and make things happen on your screen. This is called client-side because it runs on your computer, the client. Server-side. The server side is the part of the application that runs on a server, which is a computer designed to handle many users and data. When you visit a website, your browser sends requests to a server asking for information or actions. The server-side code processes these requests, retrieves data from databases, performs calculations, and sends back responses to your browser. To simplify further, client-side, what happens in your web browser, like animations, clicking buttons, and filling out forms. Server-side, what happens on a powerful computer, the server, that handles requests from many users, manages data, and sends back information to be displayed in your browser. In web development, both client-side and server-side code work together to create interactive and dynamic websites. Server-side code ensures that data is managed, processed, and sent to your browser correctly, while client-side code makes the website interactive and responsive to your actions. Okay, so now I get it a bit better. But now we have the server. So basically we have the client side where everything happens, everything that I see here, right? Like everything, I can interact with this thing. I can, like have maybe some colors. I have some interaction. So that's all what happens on my client side. But everything that happens in the backend. So for example, all this thing that ChatGPT is doing, so all the calculations and figuring out, okay, what to basically write in here. This is something that runs on the server side. And so now what I want to understand is, okay, we have the server side, but then is the database is probably run as well on the server side, or is something like laying somewhere else so that I have all the data and then I do the calculations with the data. So probably the database and this one is both on the server side. We don't know. Let's figure out. Okay, so I think I get it. So if we look at ChatGPT 3.5 while I write with you, the writing interface, the text that I see, the buttons, the interactivity is all the client side, while the calculations that you do in the backend to figure out which text to write next to me after I gave you some input text is then done on the server side. What about the database where you retrieve information? Is that should then also be the server side, right? Can it happen that you run all the calculations on one server and the database is stored on another server? Or is that normally all on one server? Or is the storing on one or another server something else than simply referring to the server side? So now we send this and let's see what happens. Okay, now we get a lot of answer. So you've got it. Let's break down how a system like ChatGPT works in terms of client-side, server-side, and databases. So the client side is what you see and interact with. In the case of ChatGPT, it's the user interface, UI, so user interface, where you type your messages, buttons you click, and the text you read. When you send a message, the client-side code, JavaScript running in your browser, prepares the message and sends it to the server side for processing. The client side also handles the display of responses received from the server side. The server side is where the real computational work happens. This is where the AI model, like GPT 3.5, resides and processes your input. When you send a message, the server-side code receives it, processes it using the AI model, generates a response, and sends that response back to the client side. The server side can also interact with databases to fetch and store information if needed. Database. Server side or separate server. Databases are typically part of the server side, but they can also be hosted on separate servers depending on the architecture of the system. Databases are used to store and manage structured data. In the context of ChatGPT, they might store information like user preferences, conversation history, or frequently accessed data. The server-side code can communicate with a database server to retrieve or store data as required. In the case of large-scale systems like ChatGPT, it's common to have a distributed architecture where different components run on different servers. For example, the client side runs in users' web browsers. The server side, including the AI model, may run on powerful servers optimized for computation. Databases might be hosted on separate database servers, which can be optimized for data storage and retrieval. The decision to distribute components across different servers depends on factors like scalability, performance, and reliability. Separating the database from the server side can help distribute the load and improve performance. So referring to server side generally means the computational part of a system, including the AI processing and database interactions, while client side refers to what users see and interact with in their web browsers. Okay, now I think we have a good understanding. So that's great. With this understanding, we make a short break and I get something to drink, and then we are back in a minute.